Please watch the video until the end to experience the entire journey and all the subtle revelations. Chapter 1, The First Winter. The man who tells this story, one who kept careful notes in the margins of memory, saw her first at the edge of a frozen lake while the town was wrapped in the hush of snow. He was not the one who fell in love, he was the one who watched love bloom and withered myths rearrange themselves around it. He observed from a distance as she walked with the lightness of someone who believed time was a gentle companion rather than an inexorable judge. Others called her Mira. She was 29 in every photograph she would ever allow anyone to take. She wore old coats and new boots, and she moved as if unaware of the curious steadiness in her hands. Across the iced mirror of the lake, Jonah, an artist with a sketchbook always half full, tripped and sketched the way she tucked hair behind her ear. He would later tell the narrator that the drawing felt like a theft, but the narrator knew better. It was the first map that began to chart their years. Chapter 2, A Life Measured in Moments. Mira lived by choice and by precaution. She kept a small apartment that smelled of lemon and old books, she changed cities when people asked too many questions, and above all she kept her circles small. Decades passed like film reels flickering in the mind of the narrator. The narrator saw Mira in a cafe in the 60s, at a jazz club in the 70s, at a botanical garden in the 90s. She accumulated the artifacts of many lives, a string of friends who faded away, a photograph of a child she never bore, recipes written in margins, and a pocket watch whose hands were forever steady. Jonah returned to town after a war, then again with a child in his arms, and then as an older man seeking the language of things kept secret too long. He recognized Mira not by the age she appeared, unchanged, but by the way she laughed in a certain baritone where laughter was a small rebellion. Their acquaintance grew like the careful layering of paint in a portrait, slow, patient, and precise. The narrator recorded the small afternoons that became large, tea spilled on a winter afternoon, a shared umbrella on a rainy market street, a debate over a professor's translation that turned into a midnight walk. But the narrator also watched the pauses, Myra's eyes darting to the window when a police siren passed, the way she invented excuses to change a name when a new neighbor mentioned birthdays. The hush around her was not mystery for mystery's sake, it was a fortress built from the knowledge that the world did not easily forgive exceptions. Chapter 3, The Confession That Wasn't. Jonah, patient as tidewater, fell into a deeper orbit. He loved the lines at the corners of his own hands, the way grief had remodeled his face, and he brought Mira things that mattered, a book by a forgotten poet, a pocket knife with an engraving, a single green apple from a tree that fruited only every other year. He thought love might loosen her restraint. The narrator remembers the evening on the pier when Jonah, after a long silence, admitted that he could imagine a future where they grew old together. Myra's reply was not anger, nor was it cowardice, it was an explanation tinted with sorrow. She told him a story she had rarely given voice to. Once, long ago, a light had kept her heart and body between beats of time. A near miss, a fall, a fever. Hearing it, Jonah felt something in his own chest go uncertain. He asked questions because questions are what lovers do. She offered only fragments, like broken glass that still caught the sun. The narrator witnessed the way Jonah's hands trembled as he reached for her. He also marked the way Mira drew the curtains closed afterward, as if privacy could be sewn from wool and thread. Chapter 4, Outside Forces. The world, unlike the narrator's notes, did not stay courteous. Jonah's daughter, Eleanor, grew to admire Mira the way one admires constellations, distant, dependable, almost designed to provide navigation. Friends asked why Mira never aged, and whispers became a steady rain. An ambitious journalist, a nephew with too much curiosity, and a bureaucrat in a distant registry office all inched toward the same inconvenient truth. Moments that had been private now dangled in the public square. Mira reacted not with fury but with strategy. She moved once more, but Jonah and Eleanor refused to let the past be a wall. They followed, not like hunters, but like people who could not bear the idea of a life without the presence of someone who had been their harbor. The narrator observed how love became less a private thing and more a duty, to protect, to claim, and to share a truth so complicated it might topple the balance of ordinary lives. There were arguments, quiet and sharp, and long reconciliations over dinners where the radio played a song each of them knew from different decades. From the outside, the life between them looked improbable. And yet the narrator saw that improbability did not negate fidelity, it refined it. The heart does not choose time span. It chooses person. Chapter 5, The Choice. In the end, choices compressed into a single week that felt like a season. An opportunity lay before them, an astronomer's device that promised to reveal more than just star charts, a physician who thought she could find a flaw in the ordinary metrics of life, and a manger of memories, an old friend who offered counsel in the form of blunt honesty. Should they seek alteration, or should they reframe what living together meant? Jonah proposed something that surprised even the narrator, not to hunt for a cure but to build a home that honored reality as it was. For him, love had always been less about solving mysteries and more about finding quiet permission to remain. Mira hesitated because she knew the world's appetite for spectacle. She feared being reduced to a curiosity or a case study. But she also loved with a steadiness that had been tested across decades. When she agreed, reluctant, courageous, and precise, it was as if the two of them signed a private treaty that honored both safety and truth. They held a small wedding under a canopy of string lights, with Eleanor at Jonah's side and a handful of friends who knew the weight of long affection. The narrator watched them exchange vows that were less about promises to change and more about promises to protect and to witness. It was not a romantic gesture born of a film, it was a decision, steady and human. Chapter 6, A Quiet Afterwards. Years unfolded as they always do, small and ordinary and full of meaning. They cultivated a garden that yielded tomatoes the color of sunsets, they argued over the best route to the seashore, they learned the cadence of each other's breathing during bad dreams. Mira continued to move through life with the patient secrecy that had become habit, but now secrecy sat beside trust at the table. The narrator recorded the gentlest of scenes, Jonah asleep with a book over his chest, Mira tracing the cover with a ringed finger, Eleanor teaching Mira how to post on a platform that made headlines into gossip. Sometimes, when the house fell silent, the narrator came to sit at the window and count the quiet things, the way sunlight collected on the mantel at noon, the tiny cracks in a teacup Jonah would not throw away, the steady, unremarkable rhythm of two people who had chosen to remain. There was no grand revelation at the end of their story. There was, instead, a slow accumulation of days, each one tender as flannel and honest as rain. The narrator closes his notes not with dramatic flourish but with the recognition that love's most remarkable meaning may be its refusal to be hurried. Even when one life seems to slip a step ahead of the rest of the world, that step does not lessen the value of their togetherness. If anything, it magnifies the ordinary, the watching, the keeping, the small acts that outlast applause. Please subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, give the video a like, leave a comment, and share the video with someone who loves timeless stories.